So Simangaliso Sibaya, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us. For everyone, Simangaliso is the artist behind the Rockstar Stitch Lorcana preview card. Absolutely love the card art. Stitch is one of my favorite characters. And so just so excited to talk to the artist behind the card. Of course, we know that there's a lot about Lorcana that you can't talk about. There's most of Lorcana you can't talk about. Because Disney and Ravensburger are trying to keep the game a surprise, but we're big believers in getting to know the artists behind art that we love, especially in games. And so after we saw the Stitch card, we knew that we had to talk to you. And so thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah,
it's a pleasure. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Simangaliso, in the future, there are going to be thousands of kids and adults opening packs of Lorcana cards and encountering your art for the very first time. In your own words, how would you introduce yourself to new fans?
Well, my name is Simangaliso Sibaya, aka Panda. I am a South African Soweto-born artist, and I'm a visual developer. I started out as a visual developer. I worked my way up working for various local and international company as a visual developer. And now I am a director and soon to be executive producer for some shows of my own that I've created that I can't talk about yet.
Understandable. Well, one of them we're excited to talk about later, if you can, and it's Kizazi Moto, but we'll get there. But I do have to ask, your nickname Panda, it's not only your nickname, but it's like your moniker, it's in your Instagram handle and everything. Like, is there a story behind that? Because we're dying to know what it means.
So this is, well, it's still embarrassing, but I still find it somewhat cool. But it has nothing to do with my visual development, track and how I got to this point of my life. It basically came from a part of my life that I gave up on in high school. I used to dance, basically, hip hop. I used to crump specifically in high school. And I used to be kind of chuggy. So I was thinking of a nickname for myself that was kind of cool and also like unique that I hadn't heard before. And Panda came to mind. And ironically enough, I am in love with Japanese culture. So it kind of sort of fits. But yeah, that's where it came from, my dancing career, short-lived dancing career.
So that's, what I love about that is as you moved from like one phase of your life to another, like keeping pieces of that and reminders of where you came from and former like phases of your artistic career and like holding on to that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, that was kind of, I used to be like, well, I still was, even though I was dancing. I used to be the nerdy kid. And then one of my friends saw me drawing and I was like, yo, man, this is really cool. I'm starting a dance crew. I don't know if you want to join. And I was like, why not? I'm doing nothing but drawing, so might as well add this to my repertoire. And then it was short-lived because we did go to a competition, but we didn't end up, like the crew wasn't really gelling, so it didn't move any further. So that's why, I didn't pursue it any further. And also drawing was like my passion. So
yeah. Do you still dance?
No. What I do is I do look at TikTok to see whatever popular dance is still out there to see if I can still keep up with it and still do it, which I just try it and see for fun. I don't do it on camera or anything. I don't have like a dance TikTok that I'm hiding.
It's like a secret passion.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the things that we've heard you talk about in the past is draw what you know and create from your own experiences. You came from a traditional Zulu background. So how does your upbringing and Zulu culture manifest itself in your artwork?
So this is a really interesting topic because when I started out, I didn't see what inspired me to draw was what I was watching, and I didn't see a lot of myself, like a young black kid in what I was watching. For example, like Black Ben 10, I would always imagine it as, what would that look like as a young black kid coming from Soweto? And so throughout my career, I try to infuse myself in whatever I'm creating and really draw from my cultural background and also things I really care about, which are like, high intensity action, that sort of the cartoons that were made for the young teenage kid or young male kid, they're action packed and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I just sort of combined the two in terms of my background and that sort of genre. And most of my stories have heavy influence from what the anime community would call the shonen genre, mixed in with my own, heritage and where I come from. So yeah, I am Zulu, and my mom is a traditional healer, and she has so many sick stories. Just the lore behind what she does is so cool. So I do try to infuse that and also like stuff that I find out from, just being a young Zulu kid.
Can you share a little bit of that lore, like any tidbits about what just the themes behind it? 'Cause I'm curious.
So one of the shows I I have, one of the ideas I have is called Indonia Manzi, which is like spirit of the water basically. And it's this character who, well, it originally comes from my mom telling me a story about there being a serpent in the river that, would sort of be like the god of the water and the protector of the lake, coming in various forms of one of them being a snake, one of like snake in the water being, what is that color? That's it's like a rainbow color, and it's very, when it gets reflections, it sort of changes what the color is. I think I forgot what it is, but it's a combination of various colors, and it's like that's the color of the snake, and you'd see that, or you'd see a mermaid or a lady. And as she was telling me this, I'm like, oh, that'd be cool if a young girl went to the river, found this power, and then harnessed it herself. And that's where that character comes from. And that's how I would usually, combine those two elements or make them my own, that type of thing.
So in a moment we're gonna talk a little bit about your working relationship with your partner Terence.
Yeah.
But one of the things I loved I think it was a video or an interview that the two of you did together where he drew a picture of a class that y'all were teaching, and then you kind of like came in and drew this like monster coming out of the wall behind the kids. And it was such a cool this blending, and I feel like it's a little bit of what you're talking about now, this like blending of drawing what you know, but then taking it and like turning it on its head a little bit to make it something new and different and fantastical. So yeah, as you were kind of describing that snake and the girl harnessing the powers, it's just I feel like that's from what we've seen of your work, like that's just your moniker, is like taking what you know and then turning it on its head a little bit.
Yeah, if I were to, like, I'm not sure if I did answer the question, but if I were to answer the question, it would be like, you in yourself, like both of you guys are unique, and the journeys you guys took to get to the point where you're at right now is unique to you. And so being original is as easy as looking as how your life has turned out and like infusing that into whatever creative medium that you're trying to, pursue, which is like why I like look to my background when creating my characters. And like that's why being unique is easy if you look to yourself, as because nobody else is like you.
So I absolutely love this because I'm going to skip ahead because there's a saying, like a phrase that I've seen you and Terence use a bunch, and that is, don't credit. Tell me if I get it wrong. Don't try to create something unique. You are already unique, so just create.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely loves that, and honestly, it's inspired us a bit on this channel, because we're young creators too, and we look at all the other YouTube channels. We're like, all right, we got to kind of talk like them, or we got to be like them, or we got to create a logo like that. And honestly, when we were watching some of your old videos and stuff and interviews, and we saw this phrase, it resonated with us, and we were like, you know what? Stop looking at everybody else. Yes, get inspiration, but we just need to be us, and hopefully that resonates with people. So I love this phrase. I don't know. Did we get it right?
Yeah. And it's really important because it really doesn't take much, because we go through life trying to look like far away for something way more original, when you just need to look at yourself, which makes it like even easier, Yeah. And there's no problem in looking at reference and getting inspired by other people. There's something really cool that happens though when you start looking at yourself as well, and add on to the references that you've discovered, and create your own thing with that.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that phrase, and I love that approach.
I think he's already quoted you like twice this week with that phrase.
Nice.
Specifically. We were chatting with our family, and he was like, one of the artists on Lorcana says this. And so it really has resonated with us. It's such a powerful thing that I think more people need to just embrace. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of inspiration, and we've already talked about Japan a little bit. But we know you're a big fan of Japanese animation, art, culture. A lot of your characters, the angles, the poses, the energy, and to a degree, the style, even though it's your own style, has kind of an anime, manga, like Japanese influence to it. So this might be a multiple part question, but part one, what is it about Japanese animation and culture that inspires you?
Well, to answer that, it's just to go back to what I grew up seeing, and it was what they would call the shonen genre, which was sort of discontinued by the Western animation. But anime has so many genres that they still churn out, especially the shonen genre, because it's so popular and it just makes so much money. And that's what I gravitate to the most, which is those dynamic. It's good story, but I also like action. So a good fight scene will get me going, and I want to see that in my own work as well. And that's the one thing I love about the Japanese culture. They really push those angles and those facial expressions when in that specific genre. And it's something that really inspires me, because just when I think, oh no, I've pushed something enough, I would watch something and be like, yo, there's still way further places you can push it, because they're just so good at what they do. I mean, they start from an early age, and there's so many studios that are doing it, which is like so sick. So yeah, I really love that about Japanese culture.
So what about part two? If we were to ask what's your favorite Japanese animation or studio or creator, any of those are, what would you say? If you were to tell me to go watch one right now or look up a certain director, what would it be?
Oh, so I like to talk about like really people who really push it and studios that really push it. I don't know who the specific directors are, but I really like anything that comes from Studio Trigger. And one of the latest things is the cyberpunk anime, which is so cool. And it's on Netflix, so you can check that out. But it was so good. And one of the best things about it is the story. It's not even like the crazy action, which is just it's a given from that studio. but the story and the way they've, brought the characters to life within the narrative is so beautiful, along with the good animation. It also reminds me of how the characters have been fleshed out. Reminds me of Arcane, which is also really good.
Such a good show.
Yeah, yeah, but the way they've fleshed out their characters, and you don't feel like after the series is done, you don't feel like, oh, that guy was pointless. Like, why did they add that person? Which is really good. So yeah, that's right now. I wouldn't say it's my favorite anime, but it's right up there. It's right up there. But the Trigger is my favorite studio, like anime studio in Japan. Yeah.
You know what is really exciting to me about how much you love Trigger is it's one of the very few studios I can name, but they're a very young studio, and the reason I'm familiar with them is they did an anime called Little Witch Academia, and that was it, right? And what I love about it is it was created as a project for young animators through this Studio Miri project that Japan does, where they got a grant to take 4 like brand new beginning animators, and this story allowed them to create and learn, and then they kickstarted their next one. So this is a really like from the roots studio with young talent that's dedicated to mentoring the next generation of animators. And the fact that they resonate with you is so fascinating to me, because that's a lot of what you're doing, with young artists, and trying to nurture, talent where you're at. So I don't know. Studio Trigger is inspiring.
Yeah, it's so good because they're such a young studio, and with that comes with that youth flavor, which is like gets added onto their work and like elevates it to the next level, because everything they do, like what you said, has the perspective of what's young and cool. And when you do that, like add on like the next generation to what you're doing, it keeps what you're doing fresh, and it keeps you on your toes as well. So yeah, and it's like almost makes your studio timeless as it goes on.
Yeah, it's very cool. Have you had the chance to go to Japan?
I'm planning to go very soon. They have been in lockdown for a minute, and I haven't gone before, and I was planning to go this year, but just my schedule got too crazy. But I'm gonna try plan for next year as well, because there's a few studios I'd like to visit as well. When I was in NSE, which is like an animation festival this year, I met one of the producers of Tech on Concrete. I don't know if you know that anime. And he gave me gave me his t-shirt. He took off his t-shirt and then he gave it to me, and I was like, yo, he signed this. And then I framed it. Now it's like up on my wall here. And it's like, yeah, I need to go to Japan, because he said whenever I'm in Japan, I should hit him up. And then I can go for studio visits and all that kind of stuff, which is so exciting.
That'd be cool. And now, I mean, with being able to throw like Disney director next to your name, like it'll
exactly.
be a celebrity.
Yeah, that will help. Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the things we had an opportunity to talk to Nicholas Cole, who's another artist on Lorcana.
Amazing artist.
So incredible. Such an amazing artist, such an amazing human, honestly. And we talked we talked with him about his relationship with John Lauren throughout the years, and how they feed off of each other creatively. And so for you, we feel like we can't talk about your art without talking about your working relationship with Terence Maluleke. From the outside looking in, it looks like the two of y'all's careers have continued to collide and intertwine with each other. And y'all even dropped out of school together, I think, to start on a project. So what is your creative working relationship with Terence like, and how do y'all work together?
So I'll tell you a story. Before I was in high school, I knew Terence from like primary school, and he used to be like the athletic one with like a artistic background, and I was just like the kid who draws in school, you know. And then he also got into drawing, and then we had like a serious rivalry. That's how it started. It didn't start as a friendship. We were like, you know, sworn enemies. You know, I draw this better than you. That type of vibe. Would literally have challenges in school. It got to a point where we would literally have challenges in school where we would ask the anyone to pick a topic, and then we'd draw it, and then we'd go around the entire school, be like, who drew it better, who drew it better, and just asking different people in school. And obviously that got, you know, heated. And but one thing I valued from that was, and it's still happening now, that competition elevated my skills to a level that I don't know I could have achieved if I was at it alone. So yeah, he's been my friend since then because we went to high school together as well. But I went to a different high school. He went to an art school. And I just didn't know about anything like an art school. And then he was like, he hit me up. I don't know how. I think he came to my house. I was like, yo, bro, do you still draw? And I was like, yeah. Hey, man, come to this art school. And then I told my mom about it. And then I got in. I got into the art school. There's a whole, what's this interview process that comes with it. So primary school, I'm with Terence. High school, I'm with Terence. Tertiary college, I'm with Terence again. We went to the same school, but then we got offered a job midway through. So we had to decide between finishing school or pursuing a career in something that we're already going to school for. So we obviously chose the career path, and we haven't looked back ever since. And we also now run a visual development company together, which is sick. And we're gonna drop a podcast pretty soon.
We saw that.
Another thing. Yeah. Oh, you
Yeah.
saw that? Yeah. Which is
Do you have
another thing.
Do you have a link yet, or do you want to advertise it here?
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet.
Yeah, I can. It's gonna come on to. It's not up yet, but the Tribal Universe network on YouTube, and it's gonna be called. Right now, the working title is "We Should Be Drawing," because instead of drawing, we're doing this podcast, and yeah.
I was going to say, it's so interesting that
Should be
two visual artists that work in a visual medium are going to strip away visuals and create a podcast together.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just like, I love the juxtaposition of that reality.
Yeah.
So
No, we're excited. Let us know when it's up. We'll
yeah, we
first
definitely want to
tune
check
in.
that out.
100%. 100%.
But this reminds me, like what you're talking about, starting a podcast, and you mentioned the project you went to work. I think that was DePrinta that you dropped out to work at, and in doing research for this and looking into like your career so far, I didn't realize how much was going on in Africa and in South Africa in particular around animation.
Yeah.
When you think of animation hubs in the world, I tend to think of like California with like Pixar and Disney and the traditional space, and then Japan. And I'll shout out to Europe. There's a few studios out there, doing great stuff as well. But you don't think of Africa right away. But there is so much going on. There's so much talent going on, artists mentoring other artists, studios popping up. Triggerfish is earning awards, like international awards already, Oscar nominations, I think. And it just feels like there's something happening.
Bubbling.
Yeah, and bubbling, and not only like is the artistic talent like bursting at the seams, but Africa is a continent with a bajillion stories to tell that are just like waiting to be interpreted and told. And I just feel like, in doing this, looking back like 10, 20 years from now, Africa is going to be like one of the premier names in animation, and we're going to be looking at this moment as kind of the start of something. So I don't know. What does it feel like to be down there as an part of this right now? And kind of, do I have it right? Like, is that, what do you think?
Growing up, there wasn't actually much of an industry. There was, but there wasn't much of an industry. And I basically grew up and came up with the animation industry. And I was basically ready for these opportunities when they came up. Like there was a lot of studios looking for stories, one of them being, Disney and the Kizazi Moto thing. And I was just, ready with those stories because of how my career ended up going. And I really think that this is just the beginning of what the animation industry in Africa is looking like. And we are already creating our own visual language. There's so many kids coming up with their own visual language in terms of what does, an African animation show look like. And now we also have like really cool stories coming up because people, are getting inspiration from their background and really digging deep. So right now it's just the beginning, and I'm super excited for what's coming up in the future, especially for myself as well, because I want to tell more stories and help the young generation, just pass it on so that it becomes something really big in the future. So yeah, I agree with you, and I'm very excited for what's to come.
I mean, talking about fostering the next generation, we really wanted to talk about Kazi Sketchbook. We've seen pictures and stories about this organization that you founded with Terence. Can you talk to us a little bit about that project?
So Kazi Sketchbook is about us, again, the animation industry in South Africa and Africa as a whole is pretty young. So Kazi Sketchbook is about us going to different neighborhoods in South Africa, well, in Gauteng, where we're from, and basically finding an open space where we can have as much kids come in as possible and teach them about the fact that you can become more than just a starving artist. Basically, when you go into this industry, you can be a director, you can be a producer, you can be so much more. That just doesn't even entail art. Like there's a whole other industry, and basically to also just like pursue whatever your passion is, because in this day and age, there's something within that career that fits your passion. And that's how I was raised. Like my mom was very like, I don't get what you're doing, but keep doing it. I hope, just be the best at it and make sure you enjoy yourself. So that's something we try to foster in those Kazi sketchbooks. We actually hand out sketchbooks and we teach the kids the basics of gesture drawings and just the basics of drawing, and really introduce them to what the animation industry is. And yeah.
From what I understand, reading an interview, it is about teaching them to draw, but it's also about teaching them to be, teaching them to be prolific. Like draw every day, fill this notebook every day, and that will not only grow your skills, but also I probably develop a sense of discipline and hard work. And I don't know, is that kind of the idea?
Yeah. Also, we teach like draw from your environment, because again, you are unique, and where you come from is like only specific to you. So don't just draw things you find online and stuff. Go outside and just sit somewhere and draw the people you're passing by, because you'll never see that kind of visual language anywhere else. And that goes for anyone else. Like, it's just a good rule to have, especially when you're coming up with drawing, because again, there's a lot of artists out there, and there's a lot of really good artists out there. So it like being good is just like a part of it. You also have to come up with something that's original, something people haven't seen before. So on top of being good, I think, being original is also like pretty important. which is very hard. It's not like an easy thing and it takes a while. And like, that's why you just got to do it every day.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So speaking of, kind of dovetailing off that a little, speaking of, telling you stories from your perspective, and then some of the things we've talked about already, stories from an African perspective, and then kind of an African style of animation, all of this kind of comes together in this other project you're working on for Disney, Kizazi Moto, which means Generation Fire, right?
Yeah.
And it looks super exciting. I don't know how much you can talk about because it hasn't been released yet, and I'm not sure if but I know they're advertising it. Can you describe this project and what it's like working for Disney, and I don't know, whatever you can talk about, because for anybody who hasn't seen the first looks, it looks amazing.
I'm literally having the article on the screen so that I don't say anything that's not outside of the article.
We can come back later if you know.
No, it's cool. It was quite the experience. I've been like a lead, and I've had stories for a while, but being a director was always something I was hesitant to do, but it was something that came up and I was like, okay, I got the stories. This is the opportunity. So I took it, and it was quite the experience in that I learned a lot from it. And like moving forward, like I know a lot about the recruitment process, not just like what it takes to create a show, but before that, like what you need to set up before that, like the type of artists you need to hire, the writing process, like what you need to do. You need to get a good writer, all that kind of stuff that you need to do before you even start with the thing that you want to do, which was one of the big things I learned from it. And yeah, it's a great experience to be given the opportunity to tell your story, because with this story, it's something I came up with a while ago, and I didn't know where it belonged, and it just sort of fit this box. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go for it. And yeah, it's been quite the educational experience, I'd say. Yeah.
We can't wait to see it.
Yeah. For those,
Me too.
For anybody watching, this is one short out of a series of shorts that together makes up like a feature length film. So I think it's about 10 minutes or so for each of these shorts, and you've got one of them, and it's, I don't know.
It looks
great.
It looks beautiful from what we've seen from the trailers and everything. So we're excited to see the full piece.
Yeah, I'm co-directing it with Rocket Boy Art on Instagram. He's like crazy artist director. Also has other shows coming up from his side, which is just like been another learning experience, like learning from him and what he knows. Again, I really value like working with somebody who's very skilled and having that sort of friendly competition, because you guys push each other at each turn to be like better than your previous self, basically. And he's one of the people who I know who does that to me as well. So yeah.
That's awesome. I've one more big question before we move on to like kind of like the closing section. You've mentioned Tribal Universe. I'm sure that's something you're kind of excited to talk about, because I think it's your newest kind of venture, and your podcast is going to talk about it. From what I understand, it's a kind of a world building company where people come to you with an idea of a project, and you all will flush out the idea, the characters, the world, and then give them what they need to go pitch it.
Yeah.
Is that right? And yeah, I know you've done a couple projects already. How's that going?
So again, you remember in the beginning when I was talking about like the NDAs and the projects I can't talk about. So some of them, some of them are already developed in Tribal Universe. And it's basically that, and also a place for us, like Terence and I also have like ideas of our own, but like separately and together, like ideas that we came up with alone, and ideas that we like want to work on together. And we're like, man, every time we come up with ideas, we're basically like separated by different things. But Tribal Universe is a place where we can come together and also create our own ideas that also are inspired by our backgrounds, and just, speak to what we were inspired by growing up and mixing our culture along with that. And yeah, that's the other side of it. And it's also more than that. It's also going to be like a network where we get to do anything that's outside of drawing, like, like the podcast.
Yeah.
Nice.
Great. So last section. So one of the things that we're really passionate about is just really getting to know people behind art. And so we were inspired by what they did on the show called Inside the Actor Studio, where at the end they have these open-ended questions they ask the actors to get to know them. And so we've pulled some of those questions. They're from a Proust questionnaire. And we'd like to go through these 10 questions. Pretty, short answer, long answer, whatever you feel like. But
Let's go.
Yeah. So the first one is, what sound or noise do you love?
I love bass. I think it comes from my dancing background, but if something has like bass, I really like it. Like, and it's just like the 808. It is nothing. It's the first thing that came to mind. So yeah, bass.
That's
Is
great.
Is that a sound?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
got like
Yeah.
that vibration. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
more than
Yeah.
sound. It gets inside you,
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. It's like,
you
yeah.
feel it.
So bass. Yeah.
What noise or sound do you hate?
This is the basic one. Nails on a chalkboard. And it's not just on a chalkboard, but I would hear it when something scrapes on something else, and it sort of makes me, so that type of sound. I also don't like, I just links to that, like anything like that's too high pitched. And it's not like human voices, it's more like a consistent. So I really hate, what is this? Mosquitoes. I
Yeah.
have to find and destroy if I hear that.
That it has that high pitched thing, and it's the absolute antithesis of bass. So,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What is your idea of happiness?
It's not really, for me, it's not being happy, because being constantly happy, I find like that's insane. But I like being content in where you are and like the decisions you've made. So living your life in a way where you be proud of what you're doing, and just like following your passion the best way possible. So being content, I think, would be my definition of happiness. Not just like being actually happy, because I think that would be, if I was happy 24/7, I think I'd lose my mind within the third day.
Yeah. All right. Who is your favorite hero in fiction?
Is it fair to call out one of my heroes?
Go for it.
From my ideas?
Whatever comes to mind in yeah.
I really like Isha. Is the character I've been drawing since I was a kid. And he has this cool like blue flame that just feels like it's just like a normal flame from the beginning, but as it goes on, you find out that it's like, oh, this is not just a regular flame vibe. So I like Isha.
I think I've
I don't know
seen
if
him on
anybody
your
knows.
Instagram.
Yeah,
before.
just the kid with the blue flame. That's him. I really like him. Yeah. But I also feel like that's a cop out as well.
I mean, it's obvious that he's your favorite because you keep coming back to him. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll go with that.
Do you have a favorite
Ooh,
heroine in
wait.
fiction?
Oh,
Sorry, I
Look,
got
no,
it.
no,
I got
back
it.
me up.
I got it. Isha? Yes.
Yeah.
But I really like Hulk because Hulk. Do you guys hear me?
Hulk.
No, no.
Yeah.
Oh, the Hulk?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I realized why. I was hesitant to do it because I'm like, but growing up, like I used to draw muscles like a lot. And then when I got into like Marvel, like the comics, like I found out that there's this hero whose power is he gets stronger the angrier he gets. And I was like, whoa, that's so cool. And there's no upper limit to how strong he can get. I mean, he's pretty nerfed in the cinematic universe, but that's a whole other thing. But I really like that concept of like the angrier you get, the stronger you get, which is like if you get like if you don't stop getting angry, you just become so strong that it's unbelievable. But I also like it because of the muscles. It's good.
Do you have a favorite heroine in fiction?
Huh. Do I have a favorite heroine in fiction? I like X-23. Wolverine's. What is she to Wolverine? I think she was cloned from Wolverine's DNA, but I like where her claws are. So Wolverine has like 3 claws, but with her she has like 2, and I think 1 on her foot. And yeah, I like her kid version more than I like her adult version. I just think this cool, like this feral kid who could tear an entire building apart with her bare hands. It's cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
I guess you can see that most of these things are like related to like action packed.
Yeah.
Like most of the heroes are like are like pretty, action packed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a visual appeal too.
Yeah.
So what talent would you most like to have?
Not superpower, talent.
Not superpower, but if you have a superpower in mind, you could provide that as well.
A talent I'd like to have other than drawing would be the ability to drift cars,
Okay.
like the drifting. I want to go into that when I'm like rich and I'm out of this industry. I'll just find an old car, find a racetrack with my fellow midlife crisis guys.
Give me a call.
Yes, I can't remember that. Take cars around the track sideways. So yeah, that's ability I'd like to have. Well, I'll probably work towards it actually pretty soon. So yeah.
That's awesome.
What is your most treasured possession?
My drawing tablet. I don't know what I'd do without it. If I woke up and it wasn't in my office, I'd have a panic attack. Yeah. So it would be okay. Yeah, it's my drawing tablet. There's nothing else.
I mean,
that's a good answer. All right, 3 more. What are your favorite names?
My favorite names. In like, as in like my name, Simangaliso Sibaya, like that names of names.
Yeah, names of names.
Yeah.
I said names of names. I do like my name because of this story that it carries. It was given to me by my grandfather. So I do like and I used to hate it as a kid growing up, but my mom finally told me where it came from because it was so long, like it's a long name, and every time I wrote it, I was like, oh my god, I think it has 12 letters. Like in primary school, I remember I was like, damn, like I filled up the entire name without even adding my surname. So I really didn't like it, but it was for a stupid reason. And then when I found out, I was like, yeah, my name's kind of cool.
why, just out of curiosity, why your grandfather gave you the name? Does it have a meaning, or why did he?
Oh, it means like miracle. Uh, like something like I hate saying it, but like amazing, I think. Yeah. So it was a really good gift from him to me because I think my mom was gonna call me something else. I can't even remember what it is, but I think he probably was like, nah, this is the name. And it's cool. It's weird because I used to follow him around and do like imitate him, like do everything he did. And yeah, cool. Yeah.
Love it.
What is your motto?
I have a few, but the main one that comes to mind is like, keep true to yourself, which is something I have to tell myself almost every day. Like, don't get lost in the sauce. Like,
Yeah.
maintain whatever personality, honor that you want to maintain as whoever you are. Like, if you want to be like a badass supervillain, be a badass supervillain, but be true to that. If you want to be a good guy, be a good guy, you know, just stay true to who you are inside. It will just alleviate most of your problems in life, you know. Yeah.
All right. Last question.
Nice.
What is one question that we did not ask you that we wish we would, that you wish we would have?
I remember there was a question, and it was, what character from an existing universe would you reinterpret into a different story?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was on
Like-
our list, but then we ran out of time. So we didn't. So-
Nah.
What is the answer to that?
So
So
the
the
question,
answer,
I was gonna say
yeah,
for
go
everybody
with
listening,
the
the question was, you know, you do a lot of fan art, and what is and so you interpret a lot of different characters. If you had the chance to work on or explore one franchise or one character, what would it be?
So there's a few, but I'll just link this one back to the Lorcana card I did. Is if Experiment 66, instead of landing in Hawaii, landed in Soweto, South Africa, with a young black kid, and like what that entails, and you know the cultural connotations of like having a creature like that in your backyard as a kid growing up. So yeah, I think that would be cool. I'd do that. Disney, if you wanna work on the next stage. Okay.
That would be awesome. So basically, if Stitch was your pet as a kid,
Yes.
if he would have been yours,
yes.
that's awesome.
Those
I love that.
shenanigans. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again for joining us today and letting us get to know the artist behind Stitch. It's been really special to get to hear more about you, and we really look forward to seeing, you know, what's to come, both through Lorcana and through your other work that you're putting out in the next year or so.
Yeah. And hopefully we can have you back when Lorcana comes out and you can talk about it a bit more, and we can explore
Yes.
kind of the card art more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to. And yeah, thanks for you guys for having me, guys. Yeah, it's been a blast.
If you had a blast during this interview with Simangaliso, may I humbly suggest you follow him on Instagram. He's at Panda Exclamated, and make sure you check out Kizazi Moto on Disney+. Lastly, Aaron and I love bringing you these interviews. If you enjoy them, please consider supporting us by subscribing. It means a lot. And if you missed it, make sure you check out our interview with Lorcana artist and all-around wonderful person, Nicholas Cole, here. Thanks for watching, and remember, don't try to create something unique. You are already unique. Just create.